Guys, I am creating this video on Tuesday, but you're going to be viewing it on Wednesday. So happy Wednesday. It is the 15th, and like I told you in Monday's video, I'm going to go through today your big project that we're going to start working on this week. Well, probably next week, but you're going to start deciding and making some decisions for your project this week. So first things first, you're supposed to look at this. I'm going to get used to doing this. There we go. You're supposed to look at this on Monday. You weren't supposed to do anything with it. You're supposed to open it, and if you read directions, you were supposed to make a copy of it. But you weren't supposed to do necessarily anything but look through it. So when I introduce this in class, when we're in a physical classroom together, I go through every part of this packet. Now, it's the first day that we really start talking about and thinking about the project. So when I go through everything on the first day, we know that a lot of it kind of goes over our heads, or we don't remember it when we get to that part. Since it is a long-term project, if you notice right here, it says due Friday, May 15th. And whether we're in school then or we're at home still doing distance learning, that's going to stay the same. It's the week. It's always due the Friday before the last week of school. So we're going to go through the requirements for the project, what you're expected to do, and then what your choices are with it as well. So you definitely have some voice and choice with this project. So all right, so you have this on your computer. I put it on the classroom. You do not need to print it off, but for sake of me going through directions with this, I printed it off for myself, and I've pretty much kind of tried to divide it into sections for you. So the big thing I want you to look at today and in the next 2 days is this section right here where it says requirements. I'll get to this big section in a little bit of everything that has to be done by the 15th and put together into a project. Now, typically when we're in a classroom together, you are printing out those items and stapling them all together, or if they're on the computer, you just leave a space for them. Obviously, you can't print them out and hand them in to me, so they'll all be put in order in like a Google document for me. So first, I'm going to go through this first page. Let's start at the top. Purpose of this. The theme for all your writing, creations, art, video, poetry, demonstration of understanding will revolve around the word stereotype. I went through that in your notes a little bit when you watched my video last week of the Holocaust notes. And our whole fourth quarter unit, even though it sounds like and feels like and looks like it revolves around the Holocaust, it really revolves around this bigger idea of stereotype and prejudice and discrimination. Those things led to the Holocaust. So your project is called Holocaust Stereotype Multi-Genre Project because that's our unit, but I want you to think of this idea of stereotype as a really big idea. So you'll see in some of the examples that I'm able to find for you, I have a ton in my drawers at school. Obviously I don't have those here, but I can find some online for us, some of them past projects that students submitted all on computer. You'll see that most deal with just the Holocaust in general, and then some expanded those ideas to current day situations or more modern situations. So when we think of stereotype and prejudice and racism or discrimination or religionism, that spans all of history, unfortunately. The human race is riddled with negative things that came from prejudice, stereotype, and discrimination. So most of us will choose to focus this project on the Holocaust, and that's fine because that's what we're focusing on right now in class. But you can always make those connections to current events, current affairs, more modern genocide, things like that. So again, we're focusing on stereotype. How does that change people's lives? This big question. It's not have stereotypes changed our world, because we know the answer to that. It's a resounding yes. It's how have stereotypes changed our world. So in here, we have, if I counted them, it's probably somewhere around 15, but we have a lot of bullet points there for options for your project. So there's a lot of pieces to your project. It is not just 2 of these. 2 of these are what you get to choose yourself. The rest of this packet is required as well. But you do have voice and choice to pick 2 of these bullet points. So these bullet points are short story, fiction based on what you've learned, a letter, an interview, write a newspaper article, a poem that could be the same as a song because songs are very similar to poems. Diary and journal entries kind of goes along with Anne Frank that we've been learning about and what you've been doing. A political cartoon for those of us that are more art involved. An advertisement. Song lyrics kind of like the poem. A speech, a eulogy, that is a speech at somebody's funeral. I'll show you some examples of those. They're pretty cool. a scrapbook with text, blackout poetry because we've done that before, oops, sorry, and then a video production because some of us are more tech inclined and we want to try that out, and that's cool. And then, of course, I put the other there because you know about some things online that I don't know about, and I know some things that you don't know about. But if you find something that you think will be a really good way to demonstrate your learning for this project, and I don't have it listed on here, just let me know. I'll check out the site. I'll see if it's doable, if whatever you do on there is shareable, and then we'll go from there. So there are, again, like I said, 15-ish, something like that, choices, and you only need to pick 2. I would say the most popular, probably in the past 6 or 7 years, are the short story, the letter, the newspaper article, the diary, a lot of political cartoons, those are really cool, speeches and eulogies, those are kind of the most popular ones. I do have a handful of all the other ones every year, and they're very cool too. So again, I wish I could show you all of what we would do on a normal day when we're in the classroom and I share this with you. What we would do is I'd go through it and we'd spend the rest of class looking at all the examples I have from the last couple of years. Some were great, some were 4s, some were 3s, some were 1s, but you get to see a lot of the past work that students have done, how different students have taken different creative liberties with their project. So every project is different students' creativity. It's really cool. So I will, again, like I said, pull what I can find, and you'll today basically go through this, and the only decision you have to make is what 2 of these options in this section you want to choose after you look at examples and watch this video. So I'm going to go through the rest of this because that's the big part that you need to do today. The rest of it you're not going to start working on yet. We're going to start that next week. So once you've decided the 2 of these that you want to work on, and again, I say it up here, it says you can only pick 1 art piece. If you are more artistically inclined, you can only pick 1. You can't pick a political cartoon and an advertisement. You've got to do something writing related. And I think that was it for the requirements up there, but you have all of this stuff too. I just printed it out and I'm going through it. Down below, when you create your pieces, 1 piece right here in the yellow has to be tied to your Lit Circle novel. So your Lit Circle novel is not just a book that you're reading weekly and then doing some posts and talking with other people that have read that as well. You're going to incorporate it into this project. Sometimes people choose to do both of their pieces based on the Literature Circle novel, but it's a lot easier to just do 1. So they focused 1 on the Literature Circle novel. You'll see that in the examples. Some people choose to do a diary from a character's perspective. Some people like to do a short story and just continue the story, kind of like fan fiction. Some like to incorporate it into a scrapbook, etc. So 1 has to be involved with your Lit Circle novel. So it could be a character's perspective, it can be 1 scene, etc. You'll see some examples today. Okay, embedded quotes. Those are the last 2 pages. In those 2 pieces, you have to use 2 quotes. They can be on your title page, they can be in your dedication page, they can be in the introductory essay that I'm going to get to in just a second. They can be within the piece, but 2 of these quotes have to be used in your project somewhere. That'll become more clear when we get toward the due date and you're like, oh, I need to use those 2 quotes when you're going through the requirements, and you'll be able to find a way to easily incorporate those if you don't actively do it along the way. Okay, reflections. For each of these 2 options that you choose, let's take, for example, I write a short story and then I want to do a political cartoon because I'm an artist. I'm not really, but that's okay. Then I need to do 2 reflections. It's about a half page of writing. It's kind of like the pandemic journal writing you're doing right now. It's not incredibly long, and there's 3 specific questions right here that you'll answer in that reflection. What stereotype did I use in this piece? Basically, how did it drive my piece? What have I learned about the dangers of this stereotype? And then what was the most challenging part of this genre piece? So if I was answering that about my short story, then I'd be answering those 3 questions about that specific piece that I completed. Don't worry about them yet. Nobody has started this yet. Nobody's written or done any of their pieces. That comes after you finish a piece. You'll do 1 for each, so I'll do a total of 2. Then, here's a big one. Introductory essay right up here. We are going to do this introductory essay together. We're going to do this, typically we would do this in class. We'd take about a week, maybe 3-4 days to finish up a brief, not a crazy long essay, about a page, and I'll show you examples of that, about what historical evidence supports our position on whether stereotypes have or have not changed the world, which we know is probably a resounding yes, but what historical things have happened that tell us that, what evidence from current events influence our position on the impact of stereotypes that helps us connect it to our current life or more modern things that have happened in the world that we know are based on stereotype, And how does my multi-genre project support the essential question, how have stereotypes changed our world? It's a lot about opinion, and it's a lot about an informational essay telling your audience about what you believe about stereotypes and what you know about the world and its relationship with stereotypes. So we'll go through that next week. Don't even worry about that yet. That's when we do step by step together. You submit it, and then at the end of the quarter, when we're ready to turn in our whole project, we basically just add this in because we've already done it. Okay? The reason this part is so big is because this is what you're going to look at when you think that you're ready around May 15th to turn this in. There are, let me count them real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So those last 2 bullet points, one says graphics. Just like the quotes, you've got to use some kind of visuals. If you're doing like a scrapbook or a political cartoon, you've already included those because you've already included the graphics and the art. If you maybe aren't as much of an artist like I am, and you chose to do 2 writing pieces, like a diary and a short story, then somewhere within your project, it can be on the title page, it can be on the dedication page, it can be in your essay. You just have to include some images, okay? And then that last one there that says your paper must be in ink. For us, it's going to all be in ink because it's on the computer, but if we were in the classroom, it would just mean that all of our rough draft stuff that's in pencil needs to be in ink, whether it's typed or pen. But for this, it's going to be all on the computer, so it'll be in ink. Okay, cover page. Don't worry about that yet, we'll do that at the end. Dedication page, we'll do that at the end. Table of contents, we'll do that at the end. Don't even worry about it. Introductory essay is what I just talked about up here. First genre piece was whatever your first choice was from this bullet pointed list. Reflection was what I talked about on the first page in the blue questions. Half-page reflection on that piece. This is a lot. Second genre piece. Again, one of these choices that you picked. And then second genre reflection. Same 3 questions, half a page answered about how you did with that one. Then, that is it. Then we put it all together. And then I have lots of fun grading to do. So we are going to choose by this Friday, that's in a different color on yours as well, this Friday, what your 2 options from this list are that you want to choose. So that's after you've watched this video. You've looked at all the examples I could compile from my Google Drive over the years that kids have turned in. And then you're going to fill out the contract, and that's the only thing for today, I believe. It's the only thing that you need to turn in, and it's not due till Friday, because I want to give you a couple days to decide on that. If you are looking at things today and you totally have your mind set, go for it, submit it. There will be some people that throughout the quarter are working on this, because again, this is long term. We're not finishing it this week or next week. It's going to be quite a few weeks, 3 or 4 or 5. If you get to a point and you're like, oh, I picked this for my second option and I don't want to do that anymore, that's okay. We can change it. No big deal. So we're going to have, typically our 4th quarter week-wise, we'd have a lot of this stuff. We'd have Anne Frank. We'd read that. We do a lot of discussion. We do a lot of research. I have a couple movies I show during 4th quarter. Then we would do our Holocaust notes. Instead of you watching an hour, 16-minute video, we do it together and I talk about it. We have a lot that we'd fill in the week with all of this background information and research. And then one day a week would always be dedicated, like Fridays are, to Lit Circle meetings. And one day would always be dedicated to working on this project. And we'd always go to the library or go to computers or have the Chromebooks in class to work on it. So that's obviously got to change a little bit and be tweaked for how we're learning online. But the days that I reserve in a regular classroom to work on this project will still happen on one of these days of the week that we have class for ELA. So it'll be a Monday, Wednesday, or a Friday, probably not a Friday, because that's when we do our Lit Circle work, but we could do all work on scheduling our Mondays or our Wednesdays to basically be working on this project, and then I'll be available to you to answer questions just like always. Okay? So today you are picking your top 2 that you want to work on after you watch this video, look at the examples, start to get an idea of what this project is going to entail and what it requires, and then you're going to submit that contract by the end of this week so I know what 2 options you chose so that when we start working on it next week, I know how to help you. Okay? Happy Wednesday!